What makes a villain? Is it a tragic backstory, a thirst for power, or is it just, well, being? There's one character in the Marvel Universe who isn't just a villain, he is the archetype. He's a force of nature. He's a genre unto himself. And he's the dark, beating heart of Marvel's entire supernatural world. Today we're opening the coffin and exploring the undying legacy of the Lord of Vampires himself, Dracula. Hey everybody, and welcome back to Marvel Echoes Resonance. I'm your host, Will, and if this is the first time on our show, we're here to explore how a character's origin can spark a legacy that echoes through time. Today we're talking about the definition and the definitive monster, Dracula. Now, I know some people might be thinking, well, Dracula, he's just some public domain character, right? Doesn't he belong in some black and white movie with Bela Lugosi? And you're right, but that's what makes his Marvel story so fascinating. Marvel didn't just borrow Dracula, they integrated him. They made him a core Avengers-level threat who has shaped decades of storytelling. So to understand the Marvel Dracula, you have to go way back before his first comic appearance. You have to go way back to 1430. Yes, 1430. This is where we meet Vlad Tepes, a man who would become Dracula. The most important thing to know is that Vlad was really already a monster long before he was a vampire. He was a Transylvanian prince, a brilliant military leader, and a warlord of unmatched cruelty. His whole identity was built on power, aristocracy, and absolute conviction that he was a superior to everyone else. His motivation wasn't survival, it was dominion. His mortal life ended back in 1459, the good old days, you know? Mortally wounded on the battlefield, he was taken by his followers to a Romani healer named Leanda, who, as it turns out, was a powerful vampiress. As chronicled in the flashback in Tomb of Dracula number 13, she saw this dying, arrogant prince and decided to bless him with immortality. But for Vlad, that wasn't a curse. It was an ascension. He rose, rejected Leanda's control, began his 500-year reign as an uncontested Lord of the Vampires. Now we're going to fast forward to the early 1970s. The Comics Code Authority, the big censorship board that neutered comics for decades, finally relaxed its rules on supernatural themes. Marvel, seeing this opportunity, jumped straight into the horror game. And in 1972, they launched The Tomb of Dracula. This series, my friends, is a real origin spark for Marvel's entire supernatural ring. Written primarily by Marv Wolfman and drawn by the legendary Gene Colan, the 70-issue series wasn't just a Monster of the Month book like a lot of others. It was a sprawling gothic soap opera. It was the X-Men of horror comics. Well, then again, the X-Men were having some troubles back then. It had a massive cast, complex relationships, and its center, a charismatic, brilliant, and utterly evil protagonist. This series established Dracula's modern-day ripple effect. His resurrection in the 20th century didn't just bring him back, it created the very people who would hunt him. This is where we get the core Dracula hunters. Frank Drake, a mortal descendant of Dracula who rejects his lineage, and Rachel Van Helsing, the heir to the legendary Van Helsing name. But probably the most important echo from this series, the one that we discussed in our last episode, Blade, would change pop culture forever. He debuted in, of course, Tomb of Dracula number 10, and his name, Eric Brooks, becoming the Daywalker. That's right, Blade was specifically created to be a supporting character in Dracula's book. The entire Midnight Suns concept, the Night Stalkers, none of it happens without Dracula's return. He is a catalyst for it all. So now throughout the 70s, Dracula wasn't just a horror character. He was a universe-level threat. He fought the Silver Surfer, the X-Men, and the Avengers. His arrogance was so absolute that he even tried to turn Storm into his vampire bride back in the classic Uncanny X-Men Annual number 6, which is, well, just a must-read story. His threat became so profound, so all-encompassing that it took the Sorcerer Supreme to finally stop him. In a storyline culminating in Doctor Strange number 62, Strange and his allies managed to cast the Montesi Formula, a spell from the Darkhold that, well, get this, destroys every single vampire on Earth, including, well, Dracula. It was one of the most definitive deaths in comic history. For most of the 1980s, the vampire problem in the Marvel Universe was, well, solved. So if Dracula and all the other vampires were wiped off the mat in the 80s, where was he? Where have they all been? Well, this is comics, and we say it time and time again, nobody stays dead forever. Except, well, of course, maybe Uncle Ben. The Montesi formula eventually weakened, the dark magic brought Dracula back. But the character's Echo had changed. He wasn't just the star of his own horror show anymore. He was now a permanent foundational piece of the Earth 616's supernatural architecture. When he returned, his focus shifted. He was no longer just a monster lurking in a castle. He was a king trying to reclaim his throne. This is where his story gets really interesting for me. He goes from being a singular threat to a political and military one. He stops hiding and starts building a nation. This is the ultimate expression of his original 15th century motivation, dominion. He doesn't want to feed, he wants to rule. This ambition leads to a massive storyline in 2010 called The Death of Dracula. A very Game of Thrones style move. Dracula's own son, Xerxes, stages a coup. He unites all the warring vampire sects into a single unified vampire nation, assassinates his father, and prepares to conquer the world, starting with the X-Men in San Francisco. Of course, Dracula doesn't stay dead. He's resurrected again and reclaims his throne. But the idea of a vampire nation stuck with him. Dracula's evolution from gothic horror icon to supernatural warlord was cemented now in the Captain Britain and MI13 series, where he launches a full-scale military invasion of the United Kingdom from a fortress he had built on the moon. It's as awesome as it sounds. It's forcing the entire UK superhero community, including Blade, to go to war with Dracula. Now, this is all going to bring us to current status, which is maybe the most terrifying one yet. After a massive war, Dracula's vampire nation was officially recognized, and they're based in a vampire zone in Chernobyl. Dracula is now a legitimate head of state. He has a seat at the table. He's not just a monster hiding in the dark. He's a king with an army, an economy, and a political immunity currently clashing with the Avengers. He has, in a way, finally won. He achieved the dominion he craved for over 500 years. So when you look at Dracula's long history, his Echo is one of terrifying persistence. He's the personification of an old world aristocratic evil that refuses to die. He's not a tragic figure like Morbius. He is an arrogant, brilliant, and unkillable king who believes the world is his, and he has spent over 500 years proving it. He is the standard against which all other Marvel monsters are measured. So I'll leave you with this question. Is Dracula more compelling as a supernatural monster lurking in the shadows of a gothic castle, or as a political king of vampires waging open war on the world? Which version echoes for you? Thanks for listening to this episode of Marvel Echoes. If you enjoyed this deep dive, make sure that you subscribe or follow so you don't miss any of our other episodes. Leaving a like and a review really helps the podcast grow. To learn more about Dracula, follow the link below and visit our website. Until next time, true believers, make mine Marvel.